Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presenter training session. There is a lot packed in today because in the past we used to have more than one of these trainings, but this year we're only doing one. So please stay with us until the end of the session. And let me just introduce who we have here. So this is me. I'm Daita Sergi. I'm Senior Education Manager, and I'm here also with my colleague, Erin. Erin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm glad to have you all here, everyone. You may have seen me in the past with some of our AASHE virtual conferences, but I'm excited to bring AASHE back in person this year.
Great. And you can reach both of us at the same email address that was on the screen there, conference@aashe.org. And just a little bit of what we're going to do today. This is our welcome and intro. We'll talk about the speaker portal and the mobile app, and then we'll spend a bit of time on your engaging sessions. And then also on site, what's, give you a little bit of overview of the hotel and the different session rooms. And then we'll go over Q&A, but please feel free to put questions or comments anywhere, anytime during the session. So Zoom Meetings has a new feature. It's a Q&A option. So if you want to put your questions in Q&A and comments in chat, you can do that. But either way, they'll reach us and we'll try to answer them as they come. So that's that. And I think we have next a bit of a poll for you. So I think our next slide is the polls. And let me pull that up. So we want to know who's in the audience here. And what's your experience with the AASHE conference, the AASHE in-person conference, and the AASHE virtual conference? So you should see two questions on your screen. One is about the in-person conference. So if you've been at any of our previous in-person conference, we would want to know. And if you've been to any of our virtual conferences, we also want to know who we have in attendance. And let's see, most of you have answered the poll, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So yay for the first in-person AASHE conference attendees. We are so excited to have you here. And it looks like we also had a good number of you attend the virtual conference, but many of you have not attended, not presented before. So that's also really exciting. And I'm glad that you're here today. And so feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. Okay, so next we're gonna do a little bit of a chat storm just so we know who's here. So if your name isn't showing up properly, please make sure to rename yourself. And then after you do that, we will do this activity where we would like to know from you what is and Erin, next slide, please. What is the #1 insight you'd like attendee to get from your session? Because maybe you'll get some, attendees from this session. Other presenters might want to attend your session. So let's put that in the chat, but don't hit on enter. And we'll all hit enter at the same time, which is what's called a Zoom shower or chat storm, or it has all kinds of different names. So if you were able to put that in the chat, how about we hit enter now? And also take a moment to, well, good. #1 insight is insight. So that's great. So let's see what we have here. Intrapersonal competencies, assessment tools, inner workplace. There is a networking session on new sustainability professionals. That's great. Thank you, Carly, for that, because a lot of new people came into our community in the last couple of years. Technical advice, and so on. So it's a wide variety of sessions, and I hope that everyone will find something of interest. And with that, now that we know who's in the room, I will turn over to Erin to take us through the speaker portal.
Thank you, Daida. I imagine most of you have probably received the email to your speaker portal. If you did not, let us know at conference@AASHE.org and we can get you set up with that right away. So the speaker portal is how you will make any updates to your personal information and some updates to your session information. So yeah, if you don't have it, if you didn't ever receive it, check for your speaker portal, which was sent from noreply@feedloop.com. We started sending these out on September 21st. If you were added as a presenter after that, that date may vary. Feedloop does occasionally show up in spam, so check that. And again, if you still can't find it, shoot Daida and I an email and we'll be able to get that over to you right away. So if you've done a conference with us when we were virtual with GCSHE, what's the same? We're still using Feedloop, which is the same provider we used in the past. You can review your session info, including things like your title, description, time, and location. They just want to call out all session times are in Eastern time zone. This will not be quite as imperative in person as it was virtually, but still worth noting. And we also recommend strongly that you update your speaker bio. We have included your bio from when you provided your initial proposal submission, but if you want to update that, if you want to add additional information, that's a great place to do it. Highly recommend adding a photo. It's a little bit easier for people to pick you out. Your photo will be in the mobile app. It'll help make those connections and networking happen a little bit more organically after the session. So what is different from past years? This year, we are able to create digital polls, which is a great function to engage your audience. We've done a little bit in Zoom today. It's a little bit different in Feedloop, but still pretty straightforward. And you can even take text questions from the audience. For some of those sessions that have got a bigger audience, this can be really helpful. Attendees can upvote questions, and we'll walk you through real quick how to do all of that. So this is my speaker portal. Everyone has their own. You'll notice at the top we have some clear dates that we're outlining. We've got a presenter slide template that we'll get to here in a little bit, and our AASHE session update request form. We have locked all of these sessions just because we like to keep track of what changes are being made. That doesn't mean you can't change them. You just need to go to this form and request updates to your description or your title or your target audiences, any of those pieces that you feel like needs to be updated. So to update your profile, you'll just go in here. You'll see a lot of this will be pre-filled, but if you've got designations, if you want to include a phone number or a location, you certainly can. You can add a little bit more to your bio. You will find if you have submitted a proposal and you did have your biography in there, that will be pre-filled here, but you can make any changes. You could add some personal social media links, and of course, the all-important photo. It's pretty straightforward to get that updated. If you do need any email addresses to be updated, that is grayed out. That's how you're linked in Feedloop. So again, if that change needs to happen, please hit us at conference@AASHE.org, and we'll be happy to take care of that. As the conference goes on, we might put announcements in here. We don't have any plans to yet, so you can probably ignore that section. Find out your session info. You can go in here and you'll find your option here. If you are attending, or sorry, if you're presenting more than one session, you'll see a number of options you can click into. But as you'll see, you'll be able to see all of your session details. You'll be able to see these different target areas. You'll be able to see the room you're in, the type of session, the title, the description. So that's a good place to check on that. All right. And we're going to go into some of those polling things here in a little bit. So don't worry that I've skimmed over that too quickly. You'll also see that we again have added speaker portal tasks. Most of these are optional this year, but it is a good way to kind of keep track of different deadlines and timing that we're focusing on. So you'll see things about updating your profile. If you don't like getting those reminders in your email that you have not updated your profile, log into your speaker portal and click complete on those tasks. That will make that go away. Same thing with uploading presentation materials, such as slide decks and handouts that would be useful, finalizing your session information, adding polls and Q&A, and finding your session location. So as we touched on, you'll want to make sure to update any information that you would like to share with other attendees. Anything you enter in the speaker portal will be visible to attendees. So just be aware that this will be public information. So if you don't want people potentially calling you, don't put your phone number in there because they will have the ability to do so. All right, presentation materials. We do like to share slide decks from our sessions after the fact. It'll be in the mobile app. It'll be available for people to download, to review. So this is a great place to leave any extra resources, guidebooks, working sheets, and a PDF of your slide sessions. This is just a really handy way for people to be able to refer back and potentially take notes as well. Did want to call out that even if you've uploaded a PDF of your session slides into the portal, this is not what you will be able to use to present from at the session. We'll get into how you present your slides in a little bit, but this is just for reference for attendees, not for presenting from. And to add that, it's really straightforward. You find your session again, and you go into session files, and you just upload it here. Choose file, and then add a description. If for whatever reason you change your mind or you want to wait on putting anything up until maybe during the session, you can mark it as is private. But I don't know too many situations where that would be useful. So I would recommend leaving that unchecked so attendees can access this information. And as we mentioned, just double check, look over your session description, your target audiences, audience level, make sure the other presenters are right, and let us know if you've done anything incorrectly. And if we are going to be on person, it is imperative that you know where your session is going to occur this year. So to find that, you will just go into your session here, and this very first box is going to show you where your room will be for presenting your session. I am using the expo hall as a sample because I am not presenting at the AASHE conference, but you'll see that this will change to different rooms on the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th floor. You can also find it in we do have this listed on our full schedule on our conference app, or sorry, on our conference webpage. You'll see it looks very similar. We've got this highlighted in red here, or even in the mobile app, you'll see in your session, this little location icon references which room these different sessions are going to be in. All right, so now we're going to touch on polls here very quickly. These people will be able to fill out the polls from the mobile app. This will automatically pop up. They can go in, they find your session, and then they will be able to see polls. And of course, mine is not wanting to load right now because that is how things often work when doing live presentations. May have to come back to that. I'm not sure why that one is acting up right now. So I will return to that shortly. All right. Let's use this. So we'll go off of this one for the moment, and I'll come back to the live version here. But you will enter your poll, and then you have to put in options here. It is a single choice select system, and the polling questions are public. So what's going to happen is you're going to go in here, enter your questions, enter your options, and then click save. And you want to make sure when you got done entering your question that you click enable poll. It is possible to turn polls on and off during the session if you want to launch them at different times. However, we all know that there's a lot to juggle when you're doing live presentations, case in point, and not being able to load the live polls. So I do recommend overall that you enable all polls ahead of time and then just question your audience or ask your audience to go into the mobile app to submit them at the appropriate time in your session. I think that's just going to be easier and more straightforward overall. But if you've got a handful of people who are presenting and someone can be monitoring the polls, by all means, feel free to enable and disable. You'll be able to do that through the speaker portal. And I apologize, my cat is making appearance on this presentation. So just as a quick call out, as we go forward with this, I plan to do this in the session. So let's see if this is reloading. Nope, it has acted up today. I apologize for that. So the polls, we will make sure to add an addendum as we do the on-demand version of this, just highlighting how to do this in real time. I also did want to touch really quickly on Q&A. Likewise, we do have the ability for attendees to submit questions via the mobile app. You're still welcome or even encouraged to allow people just to raise their hand and call out their questions. But I would recommend kind of keeping tabs on this mobile app just to see if maybe some of the more introverted audience members have submitted questions through the Q&A as well. And you don't have to be in your speaker portal to see Q&A. Questions submitted this way are public. Other attendees can upvote different questions. So all you'll need to do is make sure that one of the presenters has the session open and can keep an eye out on that Q&A section. So we are asking just to keep Dinah and I sane as we move forward in conference planning to request any edits to your sessions info by this Friday, October 6th. We will do our best to make them whenever they come in, but things are ramping up as we get closer to the conference. We do ask that you have any of your information ready to go by October 20th in the speaker portal. We'll be letting attendees into the mobile app probably on October 12th is our goal date. So just having as much information there from the get-go will help make those connections. Similarly, go ahead and provide your session slides, handouts, and other resources by that date. That way people can kind of skim through it and help them figure out which sessions they want to attend and what's going to be most applicable to them. And for polls, we just want to make sure that that's in by October 20th because Dinah and I are planning to go through and make sure that certain ones are enabled and just do a little quality control to make sure that all of your polls will work appropriately during your session. So that gives us a few days to check on those. All right, so now moving into the mobile app. Dinah, do we have any questions that I need to address before we move on?
No, I answered them in the chat and we'll go. There was a question about seeing the poll results live, and yes, that is possible because they will actually update in real time with all the answers that are being submitted. So people will be able to see them in their mobile apps, but you can also pull the mobile app in the browser on the computer you're presenting from. So you can also share them from there, or people can just see them in the mobile app.
Perfect. Yeah, and just to reiterate what Dinah is saying a little bit, poll results, you can't keep them hidden. In Zoom, you can choose when you want to publish the results for the audience. In the way the mobile app polling works, those quantities will be shown to everybody who is looking at it in the mobile app. They'll be able to see those real-time answers change. So there isn't really a launching of the poll results so much, it's just referencing it. But as Dinah did mention, one thing we're excited about with the mobile app is you can access it on your cell phone or from your browser. On site, obviously, the phone option is going to be the easiest for you as you try and get around. But if you're trying to build out your schedule, it's going to sometimes be a lot easier to sort through and look at everything on the desktop mobile app. And that will translate so your schedule, all those sessions that you added to your personal schedule will show up in your phone mobile app. So in the mobile app, attendees can view session info, view presentation materials, we'll have session locations and maps listed out. They'll be able to use polls and submit questions digitally. and provide session evaluations at the end. Just to call out really quickly on the evaluations, it will take us a little bit to pull that together. Unfortunately, there is not an automated way to have those results show up in your speaker portal, but those will be provided shortly after the live conference in your speaker portal to kind of see what feedback attendees will view. So here's an example of how one session looks in our mobile app. As you'll see, we've got the description. If you scroll down, we've got speakers there. You'll see polls will be accessible here on the left. Feedback is our evaluation, and then any questions from the audience will be over here on the right. As an attendee, you can add anything to schedule. You'll be able to see which audiences each session is applicable for. Here's that location we were talking about again. This is going to be in Gardner on floor 3. So very easy to have that audience interaction via the mobile app during those sessions. And just for your reference, this is what the session evaluation question will look like. It's very similar to what we've had in past years. We've kept it very short and sweet, as we found that the shorter it is, the more likely people are to give us that feedback, which is very helpful in determining future years and making adjustments in the future. All right, and if there are no questions on the mobile app, which I am not seeing yet, Daida, I will turn it over to you to help us learn how to be engaging.
Thank you, Erin. Let's launch another poll. And this time we'll ask you, which type of sessions are you presenting at this year's conference? And I'll make sure to also reference the different presentation types. Okay, so it looks like most of you have participated in the poll, so I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. And most of you are presenting field reports, which makes sense. That's the majority of the sessions. But also a couple of you presenting learning labs, networking meetings, or topical tables. Perfect. So I also wanted to provide a little bit of an overview of what we learned from the virtual conferences and also from the previous in-person conferences on what attendees prefer in a session. Next slide, please. And I will mention that some of this is adapted from the trainings that we did previously for our virtual conferences, but a lot of it also applies to the in-person conference. And I will point you back to the presenter details page, which is the page that we are providing you with a lot of information. So if you don't remember something we said, or you think you heard something on this session, go there, because most likely that question is answered on this page. We have some deadlines there, the presenter tips, and we divided those in before the conference, at the conference, and after the conference. And also we have at the conference, we have that separated into the different presentation types. So we have a lot more information there as well. So please make sure that you're checking that out. And the recording and the slides from today will also be posted there for your reference. Next slide. And I just wanted to call out the tips that we have before the conference. I'm not going to go through those now, and this is not a great screenshot either, a lot of text. So this is what I'm going to tell you not to do, but make sure that you check it out on the presenter details page. All right, so okay, we have another attendee poll. So let me pull that up. And I want to know, as an attendee, not as a presenter, why you decided to attend AASHE 2023. And, one of your reasons might be because I'm presenting. That's not an option because I really want you to think from an attendee perspective here. And see, why are you coming to the conference? Okay, and again, it looks like most of you responded to the poll. So I'm going to end and share the results. And you'll see that even though you are presenters here as an attendee, you're coming to network with colleagues and peers. So I think you need to keep that in mind when you are creating your sessions, and how you also incorporate that in your session so that people actually get a chance to connect and create relationships while they're in your session as well. And thank you for providing this poll. So let's go next. And most of the time, especially pre-pandemic and so on, we are used that presentations use a very simple format. We do a welcome and introduction, we do content heavy slides like we do in today's session a little bit, but this is what you should not be doing at your session because today is a training. And then we take questions from the audience, right? Well, I don't think that format works well anymore, not just because we learned how engaging meetings can happen better when we were in a virtual format, but also in person. You want to, design your session so that it's a collaborative experience that also taps into the expertise of the participants. And if they are engaged and participants in the co-creation of that session, they will take your lessons learned or best practices or whatever you want to share through that session and incorporate that into their own work. So we recommend that you redesign and rethink how your sessions are created so that you keep the audience engaged and change what you're doing and limiting blocks of activities to maybe 10-15 minutes, and so that you don't lose them, right? And a 45-minute conference session could be instead designed, in this format with I'm not saying don't present any content, but that should not be the main part or the one that takes the longest, just you in front presenting slides. And in order to do this, we have a couple of resources for you. And one is the next slide, please, the Get Interactive resource. And while, again, this was designed or created when we had the virtual conference, and you'll see there's a lot about presenting virtually, but the main points are applicable to any session. And we just didn't have time to update this resource specifically for in-person, but it's as valid as it was for the virtual conference, which you should start by designing your session, thinking about the goals and so on, and then plan for how that will be a success, and we have a lot of recommendations there on how to do that, and also a few tips for how to deliver your presentation. Next slide, please. So for the design session, which is where I really want you to spend most of the time, is thinking about what are the goals of your sessions. And I asked you at the beginning of this training of what is the #1 insight you'd like attendees to leave with from your sessions. Think of that. What do you want them to take out? Why are you presenting this session? What are the goals? And then think of how to design your presentation around them. Don't just reuse some slides because you have them and maybe it's just, the easiest to go do that. Try to think a little bit more of, that attendees want to network with peers and create connections and relationships, how do we design around that and incorporate that also in the session? And then, of course, there are time limitations. There's good practices to think about psychological safety and accessibility and inclusiveness, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Is it in the next session? In the next slide, yes. First, let's talk a little bit about time. Yes, so the sessions have, a time limit. You can you either have 45 minutes for field reports and networking meetings, and that includes everything, all the activities that you need to design them within 45 minutes. The learning lab have a little bit more, but there also will have more activities included to span 3 hours. And then the topical tables are a little bit different, since there won't be slides and projectors and so on. There will be more based on in conversations. And really think of being realistic with time and practicing your different activities, and make sure that they stay within the allotted time.
And real quick, can I just jump in real quick? Yep. For those learning lab presenters, 3 hours is a long time to have people sitting and listening. So we know you've been focused on being interactive. Also note that we will let you know, we will be having some refreshment breaks in the morning. We will let you know that time, as that's going to be a good chance to give your participants 10 minutes to wander downstairs, get a cup of coffee, use the restroom, and come back. So as you're planning it out, try and do your best to figure out a break in the session so your attendees aren't getting restless.
Yes, and we're going to share the timing of that so you can plan around it, when you're planning your session. All right, and I will emphasize that connection before content, it's a concept, it's a thing that exists out there. So if you Google it, you'll find more about it. But it is important as the host or presenter, facilitator of your session, you're creating the culture of those 45 minutes or 3 hours. So, and can you click once more, Erin, please? People need to relate to one another, to the presenter, to the topic, so that knowledge sharing and networking can occur. So connection creates an environment where people feel comfortable being authentic, vulnerable, learning, knowledge sharing, and building stronger relationships, which is what we want. So keep that in mind as you are designing not just your content, but also the activities that you are doing with your attendees. And next slide, please. I also wanted to talk briefly about engagement and psychological safety, accessibility, and inclusivity. And today, we're not going to have time to go through this Jamboard exercise. If you've presented at one of our previous virtual conferences, we've done this exercise together. And here are some of the engagement ideas. And Erin, there are 4 jams, so you can click through them. Mistakes to avoid, also ideas for accessibility and inclusivity, and also psychological safety. And if you have additional ideas, and did I not make it? Let me make sure that it's shareable, actually, and editable, not just viewable, and of course it is restricted because that's how it happens. Yep. And I will explain the term in a moment. So feel free to add anything else that you think it's important. And, as you refer back to this, you will find also any other ideas there. So psychological safety is where people need to feel included and safe to learn. so that they contribute and have discussions and even, share different point of views in a space where they are where they feel that they are safe and comfortable. So that's what psychological safety generally refers to. And then for engagement, of course, we want to captivate your audience so that they will retain more of your content. But don't do engagement just for the sake of engagement, like you have the poll options through the mobile app. I mean, if you ask them what their favorite color is, unless it's really, has something to do with the content or the topic of your session, don't just do that. But interactivity and engagement, when done right, add value to the session and the audience. So that's what I wanted to emphasize there. And let me see where we are here. If there's anything that jumps at you in the Jamboard that you'd like to mention, please, you can +1 them or put in the chat if anything that you see there, you have a question about it, please do that. All right. So the Jamboard is a resource for you, but you can also interact with it, add other ideas that you might have. All right. So also wanted to call out a couple of activities that we have on the Get Interactive resource, but also some things that you can do for relationship building. Remember, your poll said that you as an attendee want to come to the conference to network with peers. So this is something that you can do to foster that in your sessions, roundtable discussions or paired networking, or some kind of collaborative work. Pair share are good activities to do that you can do in person well with groups of 1, 2, 4 all or 1, 3 all. So 1 means they think of something on their own for like a minute, then they share in pairs, and maybe then they come in groups of 4 and then they share with the whole audience. So that's something you can do. And there's other formats out there. Conversation Cafe is also a nice format that you can use that involves everyone and building upon what the person prior to you said, and that's also a nice way to build up ideas. Okay, next slide, please. Whatever you do, make sure you do a content rehearsal, especially to test your runtime. And also when you have multiple presenters, make sure that everybody knows what their role is, how much time they have, and they do that practice. And, breathe, it will all be fine. We're all nervous before sessions. And don't put too much pressure on you. It will be okay. And if you have any questions, if you I want to do this, but I'm not quite sure how to incorporate it, or you need help, reach out, because I would be happy to look over your plan or come up with or help you with some ideas. And I think we also have help your session attendees follow best practices. Don't just go back to the default of this is who I am, this is what I did, do you have any questions? Try to change it up a little bit and follow best practices for engaging and psychologically safe, accessible, and inclusive sessions. Having the PDF of your slides or other materials in the speaker portal will also help people follow along, or take notes, or however they want to use those, and make sure to stay within your allotted time, because probably there is a session before or after your session, so people will want to be able to get to the next thing on the schedule. And next slide, please. Yes, I think I already mentioned this earlier, but we also have some specific session formats tips. So look for those in the presenter on the presenter details page. And with that, let's go to slide templates. I will go through this quickly. Next slide, please. We recommend that, not that we recommend, you should have your slides in a 16:9 format, because this is how the projectors will be set up. If you don't know how to change, if you have them in a 4:6 format, 6:4, in the other format, I think on the presenter details page we have links to PowerPoint and Google Slides that show you how to, that is a tutorial on how to change the format, and yeah, if you have any question about that, let us know. And also on the Get Interactive page, these are the 3 stages that we recommend you go through while developing your session. We went through stage 1 briefly today, but also make sure that you read through the stage 3 on delivering your session. And lastly, I will turn this over to Erin to tell us more about the slide template. Erin, you're muted.
Thank you, Dinah. So we forgot to update this slide, best case scenario, right? All right. So in your speaker portal, as I'd mentioned previously, you will find the presenter slide template here. This is already in the 16:9. We've got a lot of really handy kind of pre-made pieces. You're not limited to all of these formats, but this is the best way to ensure that you're remaining on brand, that you are staying in the correct size. So this is a great resource. Dinah will also be adding it to the presenter details page after our session today. But again, you'll be able to find that in your speaker portal here. And then you would just make a copy of it if you wanted to keep working in Google Slides, or you could download it if you prefer to work in a different slide app. So that'll be available here. And then I also wanted to touch really quickly on the AASHE Code of Conduct. So you'll notice slide 4 here, we've done a very simplistic overview. We're not going to make you read this out to your audience like we were back in college having to read the syllabus, right? You can just flash this up on there and reference that the full Code of Conduct can be found in the mobile app. So we would like you to have this slide and at least your title slide using these templates. That just helps us with our overall conference branding. And we do think it's really important, especially given that we haven't been in person in 4 years, just to remind people about the atmosphere and the respect and the collaboration that we hope to see at our conference. So we do ask that you have this up briefly, perhaps after you introduce your speakers, just a quick reminder, and then you can go about with the rest of your session. So please, please, please just highlight that, and we'll talk a little bit about how to get assistance from AASHE if people are not honoring the Code of Conduct here in a bit. Right. All right, so we are moving on site. So Dinah, I forgot, am I taking this one or do you want me to take, or are you taking it?
I think you are, but one thing to mention here was, I mentioned earlier that there's sessions before and after you, so familiarize yourself with the schedule and what happens before and after your session. The times for, by now you know when your session is scheduled, so you should be able to see in the schedule at a glance, which I'm putting in the chat, what are what is happening before and after your session.
And I noticed we had a couple of questions really quick I wanted to touch on in terms of audience sizes. So we are expecting perhaps a little more than 1,000 people at our conference. We're still hoping to see that number climb, but that's our realistic projection at this point. We do have a number of different room sizes in the Sheraton Boston. So some of our rooms can fit 50 to 60 folks. We do have a couple that can fit close to 200. So there will be some variety. So I definitely recommend, as you're following Dida's recommendations on how to be interactive and how to get attendees networking and connecting with each other, rather than saying that you're going to have 4 groups, I would say instead that you're going to have groups of 5, and that way you have a lot of flexibility. So even if you've got, one of the smaller rooms, if that's packed and standing room only, you want to make sure that everyone has a chance to engage. So again, be thinking about how to pair people up or put them in small groups in a way that isn't going to be quite as limiting on the number of groups you can offer. We will be asking people to add to their schedule in the mobile app. So hopefully we'll have some sense of how many folks might be in each session, but that's going to depend on how much people choose to engage with that mobile app. They may look at it for reference, but may not worry about building out their own schedules. So that's going to be a bit hit or miss. All right. The mobile app has actually not been publicly shared yet. We're just trying to finalize our list of schedules and session, make sure everything's as final as we can be. We will be launching that for folks who have registered at probably early next week. So it is coming very soon. We're excited about it. So thank you for that question. All right, wanted to give you a quick layout of what the Sheraton is going to look like while we're there. So our big stuff, our master classes, our expo hall, registration, and our lunch spaces, where the topical tables will often also taking place, will be on floor 2. It is really easy to get to. We're in a fairly nice compact section of the hotel, so it should be very easy to maneuver around. So when you come into the hotel, you take a left and you go up the escalator, and registration will be right there. Our grand ballroom will be just down the hall on the left, and our expo hall will be on the right. So it'll be very easy to navigate. All of these breakout sessions that we're talking about, the field reports, the learning labs, and the networking meetings, will all take place on floors 2, 3, and 5. So that'll be a very simple way to kind of navigate. Those are the only 3 floors that we're having activities on during our conference. And I've got some pictures to go along with you here. This is floor 2. So our field reports and learning labs and networking meetings on floor 2 will be back in these ballrooms. This Republic Ballroom B is one of those larger session rooms that we have. The expo hall will be here. Registration will be right in this area. And then the grand ballroom is where our master classes will be. And then lunch will be over here. We are also connected directly to the Prudential Center, which has other lunch options, shopping, all of that. So we're quite centrally located. Then you would just take the elevator, the escalator up to floor 3. And we have a few options here. We'll have sessions down this hall and in Commonwealth. We will also have a nursing mother's room and a wellness room, just for some quiet time if you need to get away from the chaos of the conference. And on floor 5, we just have these 2 rooms right off the elevators, as we needed a little more overflow space. So those sessions will be up there. These maps will also be in the mobile app, so you don't have to commit this to memory. You'll be able to refer to that very quickly when you're at the conference. All right, and room setup. So it's been a while since we've been in person. It can feel really overwhelming. Trust me, I know. But in each room, we will have a PC laptop, which will have Microsoft Office installed, a screen, and a projector. We are not able to provide Mac laptops or Mac adapters. So please just be aware when you're formatting to make sure it's not in a proprietary slide format. You can use a USB drive to transfer your presentation to the laptop. Please bring that with you. We have not, the old USB drives that we were able to loan out occasionally are very small, and we are not wanting to repurchase things. So please borrow from a friend, get an inexpensive one at your local Best Buy, and just be ready to plug that into our PC laptop and start sharing your presentation. You are not able to project from your own device. Trying to get those all set up and get the viewing and the screen view correct is just too much time. So please bring a USB drive with your presentation ready to go as you come into the session room. In each room, we'll have a podium with a microphone. We will also have a table with one tabletop microphone and 3 chairs behind it for those who have more of a panel presentation. If you do have more than 3 presenters, you are able to move some chairs from the audience seating to the front as needed. We just ask that you return it so we can quickly turn it around for the next sessions in those rooms. And a lot of the session rooms will have built-in whiteboards. So that can be an option for some of those interactive activities that Dinah highlighted. All right, we do ask that you arrive at your room about 10 to 15 minutes before your presentation, just to make sure we can get everything set. If there are any technological problems, each floor will have an AASHE program staffer stationed there to be able to assist. They'll have a table kind of in that area right off the elevators on each floor. They'll be very close by, and a nice little sign that says session support. So feel free to ask them for any questions you may have. We do ask that you be prepared to monitor your start and end times. As we know, most hotels don't have a ton of windows in the meeting room. It can be hard to keep track of time. So worst case, just kindly ask someone in the back of the room if they will be your timekeeper. AASHE staff will also help if you go very over and they need to come check on you. But just keep an eye on it and keep things moving, please. Recording of sessions or performances is prohibited without written consent from AASHE. Some of our sessions will be recorded by the AV staff in the hotel. We have had to do that by room and not by session. So if your session is not being recorded, it is likely just a space issue, as some of these rooms are not conducive to recording. Session supplies. I mentioned the whiteboard a little bit, but we are bringing a limited supply of additional office supplies for you. So we will have Sharpies, Post-its, dry erase markers, index cards, pens, and easel sticky pads. These will not be in every room, just because we're trying not to over purchase on these if we can help it. But all supplies can be checked out from the registration area on floor 2. We will have a staff person there who will be happy to provide you with whatever you need to make those interactive elements of your session successful. We do ask that you return these after your session, just so we can keep cycling them out to future sessions and not have to overbuy. Just a reminder, tape and other adhesives on the walls of the hotel are not allowed. Sticky notes are fine, things that are designed to be removed cleanly, but please do not bring any of your own tape or glue or anything like that. All right, Dinah, are there any questions we need to tackle before we go on to the recap and the next steps?
There was a question about the laptop being connected to the cloud. So the computer will be connected to the internet. If you need to access your drive or anything like that, you will need to log into that. Make sure you also log out at the end. But yes, they will have internet access.
Great.
And
I know there was a question earlier about the topical tables, which are a little bit different for those who maybe weren't accepted as a topical table. We are providing these as a way to kind of network during our lunchtime on Monday and Tuesday. So not all lunch tables will be for topical tables, but this will be a good chance for people to meet up in the back bay ballroom where we're having lunch and have a discussion around these kind of pre-submitted topics. So people will be able to choose. I think there was a question on whether folks can move around to different tables. You certainly can, although it really kind of depends on the session topics, on how long those conversations are going to go. I imagine you will have a mix of kind of more informal, just a topic that people want to share with one another, and people that are looking for more structured interactions. So we will have a map for where to find the topical tables you're interested in the Back Bay Ballroom when you come in. A lot of tables will just be for people who want to have their own networking or catch up with old friends or meet new ones. So not all of the audience will be participating in the topical tables, but it'll be a good chance if you don't know anyone or you just really want to talk about a certain issue to bond with other attendees over those conversation topics.
There is also a question about sound, if the computers will be able to play sound, and I believe that's the case.
Yep, they will be wired for sound. So yeah, it's something to recommend when you check in to your room in the 10 or 15 minutes before, is just go to that slide that may have, or a video or whatever you are wanting to show that may have audio, and just making sure that the settings on that slide are correct. But yes, they will have audio capacity.
And we got a lot of questions about how many people will be in a session, and that's really hard for us to estimate because, you know, people will go to the sessions that they're most interested in. The rooms have different capacities, and we try to assign sessions to the rooms that we thought might fit them best based on capacity or topic. So, you know, we did that. We tried as best as we could to assign you to a room that will fit your content. And it's really hard to say how many people will have. What we can share is that there's about 10 concurrent sessions. So all attendees will divide between those 10 sessions. And I think recap, because we have very little time left, but remember best practices that we both Erin and I shared during this session, and also the 2 websites that I shared with the presenter details and the Get Interactive page. So next slide, please. And I just want to get to Q&A before we run out of time. So maybe we can unshare the screen and see if anybody has any questions that are not yet in the chat or want to ask live. The speaker portal does not have room capacity. Also, I mentioned earlier that we're still doing some changes to rooms, not to times. So your session will be at that time, but there's still some movement around on our end. So your session location may change between now and the conference. So make sure that you check back the week prior or the day before your session, definitely the day of, to make sure that you're going to the right place.
And I see we had a question I really liked from Amy here. Yeah. All of these rooms will be set up in rounds, so people will be able to write their notes or take notes on a laptop. So there'll be banquet, like round tables, and then about 8 to 10 chairs around each table. And to your question, Samantha, we don't currently have the actual capacity in the session information area, but you will be able to see whether the rooms are smaller or bigger based on the floor plan size. Let's see, I'm going to really quickly share my screen one more time, Dida, just because now the polling has decided to behave. So I wanted to show that really quickly. This is in my speaker portal, as I mentioned before. I've got some options here. And then when you get done and hit save, you want to make sure to enable that poll. That will make it viewable in the mobile app to all the attendees that you are wanting to answer it. If you disable it, it will no longer be visible, but it will still be here on the back end to see the votes, and to be able to delete that poll would make that completely invisible and unusable. So just wanted to call that out for Q&A. You can add questions here. Dida and I were testing it out. You can see we can upvote. If you do have multiple presenters and one of them would like to answer in text instead of in the Q&A, that is certainly an option. But again, this is an opportunity that you can use or not for your session, depending on how many presenters you have and how comfortable you are with that interaction. Do we have any other questions? We're at 3 o'clock, which is when our session was supposed to end. I'm happy to sit around for another couple minutes if there are questions. Yes, and Leanne, we will be taking this recording. It will end up on that presenters detail page along with the slides from today. So presenters who couldn't attend today will be able to access this. All right, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to sit here for a few more minutes. If you think of anything, but feel free to log off. That's all the content data and I have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We cannot wait to meet you in person or see you again in person. I've never been in person, so I'll be meeting all of you in Boston. And if you have any other questions that you think of 5 minutes after this ends, conference@AASHE.org is the best way to get in touch with both Diana and I.